Start the party!
Hey guys, it's your boy Roy and welcome to God of War Pain! And this is going to be Pandora's Temple and the complete challenge of Atlas. Now, this first part is just regular platforming. But I really gotta say, I really love this cheeky little bastard up top. He really, like, his voiceover sounds so uninterested and dull. But it comes off like really sincere, like he's like, yeah, whatever, man. You're gonna come here from Pandora. Oh yeah, you're so special. Yeah, you're probably gonna make it. Oh, good luck. He's probably seen like hundreds of thousands of people come here, and he doesn't really care anymore. He's like, just more bodies on the fire. Like probably with the first one, he was really like, oh, this guy's gonna succeed. Like I know it. Did you see his pecs? Like that guy is amazing. And now with the 5th billionth guy appearing, he's like, whatever. You're gonna die anyway. I really like the way this entire piece was sort of put into place, like this giant temple where you have to find Pandora's box, and it really comes over as this sort of madhouse. During the game you sometimes can find notes of the architect, and I found that to be a really nice little piece of exposition of this guy who at first is like really honored that the gods chose him to build this temple and sort of this labyrinth. But eventually his entire family dies because of it, and you see him dwell into madness by the text, and that's a really nice little note. It's something you would sooner find in a game like Resident Evil than a game like this. And now this fight always gives me trouble, and not because it's difficult, but because it's long. And you have to deal with a couple of these guys, and they have their charge attack is decently fast. Not a lot to worry about actually, but because it's so long, you tend to just like in Dark Souls 2, it's something I always hated about that game, is because you sometimes have multiple bosses, you try to get a bit cocky and push your luck because you just want it to be over. You just want those double fights to end quicker, so you make a more cheeky approach, a little risk here and there, and you get punished hard for it. And it's the same here. Like anytime I lose to this fight, it's because I get bored, or I just want it to be over with, and I try to put my extra offensive on the line, and I die horribly, or at least get hit pretty hard. One thing that keeps surprising me when I'm looking at these videos and also playing this game is how little damage you take. With the exception of a few enemies like the Gorgon Assassins, I think their names are, most enemies won't be able to kill you outside of like 3 to 5 hits, even on a base health bar, whereas in other games, like if you compare that to, for instance, in Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry, if you don't have your HP upgraded, you're in for a world of hurt. Like you'll die in 1 or 2 hits. Most of the time, you'll just die in 1 hit. Here, see that hit? That was a big, slow hit from a big enemy, and it took away about 40%. In other games, that would just mean you were dead. But yeah, general tactic is just get the highest plume in that you can get, and it will just stun lock them. So that's basically that fight. What else am I gonna talk about while we pound these bitches into the ground? Sometimes I really need to watch my language. In my previous job, it was basically like everybody was a really big fan of dark humor, so you can make every joke possible. And now I work in an office space where there's still colleagues who really appreciate that, but there's also a lot of colleagues that don't. So when you constantly have to be aware, like, can I say this when they're next to me? I hate walking on a minefield, if you know what I mean. Like, I remember my girlfriend one time asking, like, what do you... Oh, there's the charge. It can be pretty fast, but nothing too special. What do you hate in a woman? And what I hate in a woman is if talking to her is like navigating a minefield. Like, every discussion, I really have to pay attention, like, oh, I better not say that, or better not trigger that little button right there about, I don't know, equality this or stuff that. I just want to state my opinion. I'm a guy that talks first and thinks later, or maybe thinks never. I think that's why I just like doing voiceovers like this. I can just talk. Something I like to do. Though the last video probably showed otherwise, because I remember at the end I was getting a bit like, what the fuck am I gonna talk about now? Like, I remember when I was recording the Minotaur boss fight, which happens a few videos later. I originally used my own tactic, which is incredibly slow, and I was thinking at the time, like, how am I gonna how am I gonna do the voiceover for this? Like, am I gonna cut it out? Gonna speed it up? And eventually, I just thought, like, you know what? I'm just gonna read a book to you guys. So I was already concerned. Oh, which book am I gonna grab, and what chapter am I gonna read? Almost sound like a friggin' Jehovah's Witness, but it wasn't gonna be that book. I was considering reading Frankenstein to you guys from Mary Shelley. Oh, that book was good. Like, a lot of people don't like it, but for me, like, the book was good. I really liked reading it. The main character is an absolute asshole, a selfish, complete loser. But for some reason, it really pulled me in. Like, he was a really smart guy. I think that's something I really like about classical novels. Is the characters are a lot more in depth. They really feel like human beings. Whereas in other books or whatever you read, characters don't feel like human beings. They feel like characters. They feel like, oh, this is the main character, this is the side character, and that every person feels like a person. I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's a writing style, which is vastly different and has a lot less emphasis on feelings and emotions, but more about text and what is going on in the world at that time. But it's just something to, keep into mind. About this video, I'm gonna try and put them into segments of the how to call it, like the major challenges. So every video is going to be a challenge. This is the challenge of Atlas. I think the next one is Poseidon, and then we have the challenge of Hades. Then we have, I think, Mountain of Madness. Then we have Hell, and then we have the final boss, the final segment. So that's the way I'm going to cut these videos up. This fight, it's just cake, especially if you know the patterns, which I sometimes get lazy of. I remember in one of my boss fights, I'm not going to spoil which, I don't think I'm going to show it, I might, I get really tired because the fight lasted like 40 minutes, and yeah, my head was sort of mixing and mashing the animations through each other. So I was constantly like, oh, is this the grab? No, this is the unblockable attack, and then I got stomped and die horribly, or I just managed to get out in time. Like, it happened a lot of times. These guys are among my favorite enemies to fight. One of the funny things about this is because I don't know if it has something to do with the collision detection on the floor, but you can see like the stomping animation, the collision's going a bit wrong. Like if you do the air grab, here it worked. Sometimes it doesn't. I always call it like, the room's just really slippery. That's something I just really enjoy. Just like fighting these guys. They're fun to fight. They don't have a lot of bullshit attacks or whatever. They're fun to combo. Like you can do this little air juggle and then smack him to the ground. If there's one thing I would really like God of War titles to have, and I'm not sure if later ones do, is after a roll that you can maintain that momentum. Like right now, after a roll, you come to a standstill. You either do a roll, cancel it with an attack and cancel that in a roll, but I don't know if you can really find a maneuverable way to roll and then immediately keep running forward. That would be really cool. I remember one of the biggest things I discovered in Ninja Gaiden back then was that you could sort of do this infinite jump. And I don't mean infinite jump up, but infinite jump forward by using a special input. It's hard to describe, but it really meant that you were a lot more versatile in your directional movement. Like you could basically really become this ninja that just jumped everywhere. Because I think the best way to describe it is after every jump you normally would have some landing lag, and there was a way to circumvent that. You could just jump forward and side and whatever, whereas normally there was some landing lag that stopped you from doing this. I remember on my first playthrough, I think a lot of people did that. I hope, otherwise it would feel bad. But I got lost. I really had this feeling of like, where the hell do I go here? Like, is there a certain enemy that I need to fight? Is it a puzzle? Because up until this point, the game was fairly linear, and here the game's, at least for its own merit, starts to open up a bit, which I find really enjoyable. There's even a little hidden room that you can open from Zeus if you find 2 hidden keys. I wanted to show that in this playthrough, but I didn't. I ended up not getting the keys because I forgot where they were. And the game also understands how traps and puzzles should work in a gameplay environment. Basically, puzzles that you've solved or traps that you've avoided generally will never appear again, or will be deactivated. Like you saw those wall stompers. Don't know what to call those things. Things that come out of the wall to smack you. It's only there once in that room, and after that it's deactivated. And I think a lot of rooms do that in this game, which I find to be a nice, refreshing little touch, because there's one thing that's annoying is you're playing the game, you've already been through it once, and you have to go back, and you have to circumvent all those traps again. And generally, the traps are only designed for one way, so if you go back, you can sort of feel like, it doesn't feel right, like the level design sort of feels iffy. Oh yeah, Blades of Artemis, Big V's main attraction, which I will not be using this run, obviously. I will use it in the final fight to sort of use iframes. I'm not sure if that's something they actually intended, but if you switch to the Blades of Artemis, you will get pretty sizable iframes. At first, when I saw videos of people doing it, I felt like, oh, that's like Royal Guard levels of like precision, but it's really lenient. Now here for the challenge of Atlas, what I just do is I just ignore everything. I just jump over here and skip this fight, because after these little minions you get the Gorgon Assassins, and there's also a checkpoint up there, as you saw, but because of my very clever editing. And get that strong attack in. You can sort of slam dunk them into each other if you're quick, but I'm not quick. Not anymore. I'm an old fart of not even 30 years old, so I'm not even old. I'm young. I'm a young little rascal. I remember at work, like sometimes when people ask me, like, how old are you? I always tell them, like, how old do you think I am? And it really ranges. Like, some people will say, like, 31, 32, and others will say, like, I don't know, 22, 20, 23. I have no idea. Sometimes I forget myself. Like, do you guys have that? Like, it happens to me a lot. Like, people ask me, well, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, let me count. Let me count. And I go back to year and like, what year is it today? And I was born that year. Oh wow, I'm 28. Whoa, where's the time going? What is going on? I can't imagine what my life will look like when I'm 30. Yeah, there I screwed up bad. I wonder if this is the take that I die. That would be funny if I accidentally left that in. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm sort of still figuring out, because I already edited these videos a long time ago. Generally what I do is after I get the rundown, I immediately edit it, because I hate editing. So I just grab the videos and clobber them together and get that over with, and the voiceover comes last. So it's been a while since I actually recorded this, at least a month maybe. But that's also because of my vacation, which was great, by the way. Thank you for asking. Here we have another nice little set piece where we have to climb the frickin' wire. I'm not sure if I actually go back. Do I go back? I'm not sure. Yeah, I go back. I'm a coward, even for one of them. I'm like, screw this. I remember being stuck here when I was on my first playthrough. I reached this and I was like, yeah, I made it. Woohoo! I found a new place to go. I can finally make it. And then I got here and I got stuck because I was really bad at these fighting segments on the wire. I think that was basically because I was bad at this game, but in general, I was just horrible at it. And I was horrible at every action game I touched, because I played every action game like it was Ninja Gaiden. And I think that's a big flaw that a lot of people have, that they play one action title and then every title they touch, they sort of compare it to that one, or the playstyle of that one they try to implement in the one they're right now playing. I remember some people were playing, for instance, Shinobi, and said like, yeah, this is a fun little game, but hey, I played Devil May Cry, so, you know, this game is shit. And I'm like, but Devil May Cry is a different title. Like, this game is trying to do something completely different. It's not going to emphasize on style. It's like playing God of War for a style meter. Like, it doesn't work. I feel like every game should be sort of judged on its own merits and what it tries and wants to do. God of War, like, tries to focus on efficiency. Oh, that's great. Love it. Oh, here we get the gangbang. I have no idea what triggers this, but they just keep on grabbing you, and it's... I mean, I don't mind. It's an easy kill. Do you still get orbs for it? I'm not sure. I don't think you do. Let me check. Drop down. Oh, you got one small little red orb, so it's a lot less. Bam! I like the animation. It's really sweet. Really nicely done. Animation team really did their best on this game. Yeah, see here you get a lot more orbs. So if you ever want to do an orb high score run, well, there you go. Don't let them grab you. I wonder what the max is. It's just 99. Will be a bit boring, but I think it's 99. Other news. Hey, Kratos has a back. Let's talk about my back. A lot of people don't know this, but I am pretty tall. I'm 2 meters and 1 centimeter in length. And I like mentioning that 1 centimeter because it just makes me feel just a bit better than those people who are just 2 meters in height. But it also comes with a big problem, which is my back. I've been suffering from back pains pretty much since I was, I think, 18, 19. And it once really escalated because my grandfather was in the choir, and he was getting really old, so he only had, eventually he had what they call like your final song, so he went for the last time. And never really went to his choirs, but then I did. And church benches are pretty much hell on earth for your back. So after that evening, I couldn't get up anymore. Like, oh, what the hell? I remember this. What's going on? Kratos is kicking nothing. Nice little glitch there. And I remember I couldn't get up because my back was just locked in place. And after that, I also had an accident. I got hit by a scooter while I was riding the bike. Great times. But my back has always been a problem. I can't sit for too long without getting some pains. Like, I sometimes just gotta get up and take a break, or go for a walk like an old man. But tonight I'm going to the, how do you call it, physiotherapist. I sometimes go to him to have him crack my back a bit and give me some exercises. So I'm gonna record this video, and after that I'm going to him, and then I'm going for dinner at my parents because they live really nearby him, so that's really sweet. I really like doing that, by the way. The slam dunk, just slamming them in, and you're like, BOOM! You get over here! Like, BOOM! That nice little redirect in there. Beautiful. Slam him into the rest. Like, it's just one fuck fest. It's like, get in their faces. I tend to get a bit overboard here, and you should be a bit more wary with your ammo. And with ammo, I mean the enemies that you can throw. Here, just slam them in. Oh, this feels so good. Oh, I love that. Yeah, get that. Am I gonna go grab them? Yeah, there we go. Whee! Oh, I love doing that. This is my favorite part in the game, maybe. Just so nice that they spawn in the same location. You can just ram them into each other. Do I do this no damage? I'm not sure. Wait a bit. Slam them into each other. Even more. Oh, I love it. Oh, I don't no damage it. Okay, whatever. I'm not a big fan of no damage. I think I already mentioned that once. But I always find it too restrictive in gameplay. Like, I really like when you play a game that you can try everything. Like, you can go all out and experiment. Whereas with no damage, you really got to go with what's safest. Which I don't really enjoy. I want to go out there. I want to hit enemies. I want to get hit. Like, one of my favorite moves in Yakuza, which is a great action series, by the way. I never got that. Like, when I bought why am I doing this? Why am I fighting them? Oh yeah, I'm going to use them as ammunition, I think that was the idea. Yeah, I was going to lure them over here and grab them and use them as ammo, and then I just fling them at each other, which is absolutely stupid. I think that one hit her. I'm not sure. What was it? Oh yeah, Yakuza. Like that. I never thought it would be an action title when I first played it or bought it. I thought it would just be this little brawler type game, but everyone said I would love it, so I tried it. And one of the moves in that game is called, I think it's just called counter. But basically what it does is when you get hit, you can press a button to immediately with full hyper armor hit them back, which I find to be just this neat little concept. And one of the bosses has that ability too. So one time I was fighting that boss, I would counter his counter and he would counter my counter, and we would counter each other's counters. So it was just us beating the shit out of each other. And sure, I lost half my health bar, but it looked freaking awesome. And it was just fun to play around with. Same as you have multiple fighting stances, and one of the, here I'm using the camera by the way. Cheeky little bastard. Slam them into the ground. Oh, so satisfying. I was using the beast style, and that one in Kiwami, it's a Yakuza game, has a bear hug, which you can only do if you're blocking, during which you still take damage in that stance. and when you get hit, you press grab, and it looks so satisfying. Well, yeah, you gotta take damage, but I don't care. Like, I really like that type of gameplay, like the deal damage and take damage type of gameplay. I still feel like you should be able to play every game with no damage. I don't like stuff like constant environmental damage and stuff like that. Like Ninja Gaiden 2 had a segment where you could not no damage because unless you use glitches, because there was acid in the way. And it's stuff like that I'm like, yeah, why is this in there? I remember Metroid Prime has the Magmore Caverns, which you can't go through without the Varia suit because you will just take constant damage. And I think there's also one part in the... Was there a part in the Phase of Minds where you have to go through it? I'm not really sure. I remember there being a part where you had to take constant damage for just a small bit. I never liked that part of game design. I'd rather have something like a timer or something. Like I can get into that. Sort of put pressure on you, but damage, not so much. It always feels like a bit of a cop-out. Like the poison mechanic. I never liked that. Like in what games have poison mechanics? Yeah, Neo has it. Dark Souls has it. I never liked damage over times, but that's also a personal preference. Like also in games like World of Warcraft, I never really used a character that had damage over time abilities. I really preferred like that my enemy just dies by my hand, not because I gave him a wound that's slowly bleeding him to death. Did anybody of you ever play World of Warcraft? Like I played it a lot when I was younger, but it was a special. Oh my god, that game was not made for me. I mean, it was made for me, but not for my social life. Jesus. Thinking if there's anything important coming up in this video. I don't think so. I mean, this is just standard fluff and fare. Just smack them in the ground. BOOM! Okay, yeah, we talked about that. Cool, and we talk about World of Warcraft right now. Like, I'm not gonna call these guides, so it's just me talking over it. If you don't want commentary, you can always go to the non-commentary version. Yay! Anyways, I started World of Warcraft during the launch of the Burning Crusade, which was the first expansion pack. And the reason I started was everybody at school was playing it. Like all my friends were already hooked. I just went to a new school for the graphic studies. I really suck at this part, by the way. And I decided, you know what, fuck it. I just want to play with them. They were always talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. It was the big thing in that school. And I bought the main game and the Burning Crusade and a few months subscription, which was a lot of money, at least for me. And at first I thought it was pretty fun. I started playing with a couple of my friends. And eventually I reached level 70, which at that point was the sort of the big end-all be-all, the main attraction. But for me, I never really played an MMO, so I didn't really know what was up next. Like I reached level 70, so now what I do? I didn't really understand how specs worked or any of that, and what roles were. I remember sometimes tanking, but I didn't really know what tanking was. I just remember I was a paladin, so I went into an instance and they would just give me, I would have a shield because I used protection because I thought it was a cool spec, but I didn't know that meant I would tank, so I didn't know what threat was and stuff like that. I didn't really know. I remember after I reached level 70 I quit because I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done, I've reached the max level. It was sort of fun, but whatever. And then suddenly I got back to it. I don't remember why. I think it was because of a friend of mine was started playing again. And oh yeah, a friend of mine always had different characters, and eventually he got one that was level 70. So we started playing together and we started doing instances. And instances are basically these mini dungeons that you can do basically every time with 5 people, except the hard difficulty ones you can only do once a week. And this, by the way, this part, just climb and hit things, you know? Climb and hit things. Climb and hit things. And I started doing instances, and I thought they were really fun. Like, it was this team coordination thing. A friend of mine was a healer, one was damage, so and I was the tank, apparently. So we only needed 2 damage dealers every time we wanted to go somewhere. And I got pretty, I wouldn't say good at it, but I thought it was enjoyable. And I really like the teamwork. And if there's something that people will know about me that have been sort of following me or watching my videos also on my previous channel, is I like difficulty. I like challenge. I like learning. I'm always open for advice, always open for new stuff. And that really lent myself really well in World of Warcraft, because there was generally there were a couple of types of players. You had the guy that was really bad, but wanted to learn, and you always had these guys that were really good but couldn't take advice really well. And I was the first one. Like I wasn't really good, but if you told me like, hey, if you press this button or you use that ability at that time, or you do this and that and grab this armor, then you improve. And I always was like, oh, okay, cool. So, and I was also really verbal, like easy to talk with, despite English not being my main language. So I often would just go on to chat with my guild. I joined the guild because I just went on an instance room. Still remember how that went. I went on an instance one day and the guy said, hey, you don't have a guild? No, but you're pretty decent. Oh, okay, thanks. You want to join ours? Oh, sure. And then it started. I got really attached to progress. I really wanted to make it to the end. Like back in the Burning Crusade, like right now in the game you can play everything. Like even the end game content, doesn't matter how good or bad you are. They made a position in place that you can always just do the content. You'll just get less good rewards if you do them on a lower difficulty setting. But back then, like if you wanted to do the high-end stuff, you had to be hardcore. So I wanted to get to that level. I remember seeing one tank walking around in the area, and he had the best gear and the best shield and the coolest sword. I was like, oh, I want to be that guy. I want to look like him. And that was really motivational for me, but it ended up with me really having a big fight with my guild, because I thought we were overachieving, because we were really undergeared. We could barely beat the easiest dungeon, and we were already trying the hardest ones every Friday night, which I found a waste of time, and I still feel that way. And I left the guild and I joined the bigger one. I actually remember writing down my World of Warcraft resume and went to a guild that a friend of mine was in. And that was actually the part when I decided, like, what am I doing? Because I got into the highest dungeons, at least the second to highest. I remember doing, I forgot what it's called, Caverns of Time or something. What's going on here? Like, you're just standing there. They can't. I find it funny that they can't hit you if you're standing up. And I accidentally get up here and like, oh fuck, now I got to do it this way. And then I remember slowly I started quitting because there were two things I don't like about it. Like the first one was it was just really hardcore. It demanded a lot of time and attention, and I wasn't playing a lot of other games anymore. So I really, if there's one thing I like, it's variation. And oh yeah, I do have to talk about this fight, so I'm gonna take a break from my World of Warcraft speak for a second. The upcoming fight is really about ammunition usage. You really gotta really aim correctly with your soldiers, the shield bearers. If you don't hit all the sirens immediately, then you might as well restart, because otherwise you don't have enough time. The only way I killed them was by smacking them hard with the projectiles, as you can see here. I got really lucky in this attempt, so I honestly have no idea how I did this, and I really screw up. This is the most sloppy attempt, and I remember at the end I was like, wait a minute, I did it? Okay. How? I have no idea what triggered this. So anyway, what was I talking about? Me quitting. Oh yeah, if there's things I didn't like about online games, well, one, it was really big time sink, so I couldn't play other games, which is also the reason I later on quit Street Fighter, playing it semi-professionally. And the other one was when I play a game, like just like everybody else, you don't have infinite game time. So when I played a game, here, do you guys see? Like I was like, wait, is it over? Okay. When I play a game, I want to play a game. And what I don't want is I want to play a game that I have to wait for other things to sort of align so I can play the game. So often I would come home from work or internship or school or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I really want to play like that dungeon. I really want to do that dungeon. And they're like, but I gotta find 19 other people to do that dungeon with. Then you're like, it takes about an hour or two to get that group together. And by the time you're doing the dungeon, it's already 3 hours later because people forget their potions, and you're like, oh, we gotta get that too. And by the time you're done and you're actually doing what you want to do, you're already like half a day later in time. And compared to single player games, which is the reason why I mainly play those these days, is, hey, I want to play God of War, I'll throw in the disc and I'll start playing it. And that's something online games will never have for me. It's also a reason I don't like Street Fighter 5, like really don't like it. Because it doesn't even have an offline mode that you can really play while waiting for an online match. And the loading times are so long. Like half the time of that game, you're not playing the game, you're looking at a loading screen or waiting to play the game, which is just not fun for me. When I want to play the game, I want to play the game. That's the entire point. It's for enjoyment. But another big part was I tried to get really too hardcore in it, and in my attempts to get too hardcore in it, I sort of lost perspective. I sort of lost what actually made the game fun, which was playing with my friends and having a good time with my friends. And I made the biggest mistake, and maybe also the best mistake of my life, was there were two friends of mine that I knew from online. They were both, I think they were both Dutch too. And I talked to them a lot on MSN back then. And they started their own guild. They were a couple. Boy and a girl. Well, more a man and a woman. And I was just like, because I was really high up on our server in the ranks, they always sort of looked up to me as a really bad thing to say, but like they always came to me for advice, like, hey, how should we do this dungeon, blah, blah, blah. And one time I went with them on a raid, and I knew all the tactics and stuff, and it was their first time, and I really just helped them through it, and they really loved that. And they said, hey, why don't you, I know you're in the big guild now, but why don't you leave and join us? But they were low, you know, so I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I want to be number one. And that's why I declined, and I still remember regretting it months and months and even years later, because they were really cool people, and I eventually lost contact with them, and I have no idea how to get into contact with them again, because I don't remember their online IDs, I don't remember their names, and the friend list in World of Warcraft has changed, so all your old friends are deleted. So I honest to God have no idea how to find them again. I remember later on talking with them on MSN, which my friend list of course got deleted because I don't have MSN anymore. So it might still be somewhere. I'll check it out, maybe see if I can find something. And I remember later on checking in with them, like, hey, how are you guys doing? And they were like the number 2 guild on our server, and they had I think monthly meetings that they would just meet up and go for drinks or go partying or go do stuff together or have a LAN party and play video games. One of them was a hotel manager, I think. We would arrange like cheaper rates at a hotel. I was like, fuck, why didn't I join in? And my guild had disbanded at that point because I don't really remember why. Not my guild, but the guild I was in, because I didn't own it. But the reason, like, so that was one of the bigger mistakes, because I would have had fun with people that I really like playing with, and I would have been high up. But the reason it's also good that I didn't do it is it might have really changed my outlook on games, because I would still be playing WoW with them. If they're still playing, I have no idea. But at that time, I really started enjoying a lot of different other games. I had a lot of fun playing Smash again with friends. I really got back into that little casual hardcore vibe. So that's basically that. I'm really interested if we can find them via my old MSN account, because I know that data should still exist. It just went into Skype. And should still be somewhere in my Hotmail account. Food for thought. I'm slowly considering that these videos are slowly having nothing more to do with God of War. It's just me talking about stuff, which should be fine. This is what I talked about, by the way, the small glimpses in the life of the architect, which I found really engaging. It's just really well done. Just smart little text blocks like that. It really make the game just a bit more alive. Really makes it feel like a real place. So here we're gonna rip off his skull. I remember every time I reach one of these places, I'm like, oh, I'm making progress in the game. It's, again, really done well. Also how that slab falls apart, how you rip off his head. You can really see the designers went all out. They really had a blast with this. I wonder where they all went. Are they still working on the new God of War titles? I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. Here I screw up. I can't even grab a freaking ladder. This was my point that I really started to fall in love with this game, was this cutscene. because here it's the first time you really get to see a glimpse of Kratos' past and how he became like this super soldier. It's just a neat little detail. I really wonder where they're gonna take him next. I really hate. I'm not sure I have enough time for this little rant. But if there's one thing I hate about games and movies and everything in general, is how it can't let go of a protagonist. My favorite example is Splinter Cell. They brilliantly, throughout the first 3 to 4 games, really showed how Sam Fisher, the main character, ages in his animations, in the way he talks, the way he acts. Like I think it was in Splinter Cell 3, Chaos Fury, that if you do a certain vault, he would sometimes hit his back, like, oh, my back's hurting, because he's just, I think he's like late 50s. And later on, when they sort of soft rebooted it, like it's still canon, everything that happened, but different voice actor and stuff like that with Blacklist, he acts like he's 25 again. He moves like he's 15. He's the most agile he's ever been. He's the panther, the leopard, and whatever. Whereas his story was done. Like, why should it continue? And the only reason is marketing. He's easier to market, whereas the universe in that game series has shown there are more soldiers just like him that can be really interesting. Like Conviction had the Kestrel and Archer storyline, and Chaos Fury also had the 2 special ops soldiers, which were really interesting to play with because they had the same moveset, but they were younger. And it showed it was possible that they existed. So I really always liked that. But they don't use it. Same with God of War. Like, why should the new God of War game have Kratos in it? It makes no sense outside of a marketing perspective. Anyway, I've already filled my time. I'm going to go online and see if I can find those old friends again. I would love to send them a message and say like, hey, remember me? Would be really painful if they don't remember me though. Anyway, guys, been fun. Hope to talk to you guys again next time, and see you guys later.
Hey, do your job.